No, I had to give him translation of it.
Give him the mic.
Yeah.
We want to hear from Swat when you were a little kid all the way up to the end.
Our family in Israel, the seventh generation. I have lived to see 7 generations of my great-grandparents. From my father's side and my mother's side. My great-grandmother, my mother, myself, my daughters, my grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. We are in Tzfat way back over 150 years. My great-great-grandfather came from Yas, Romania. My great-grandfather came from Babrisk, Lubavitch. We are descended from the Lubavitch rabbi. Arav Shnei Zalman.
Yeah, I have it.
My father was an Australian citizen, and under the Turkish Ottoman regime, we were taken prisoners of war to Damascus, Aleppo, Konya, Baghdad, from one place to another. After the First World War, we came back to Tzfat. My grandmother was born in Tiberias. My great-grandmother was born in Tzfat. And my great-grandfather was born in Tzfat. One of my great-uncles, Ephraim Rokeach, was the first modern pharmacist in the city of Hebron, which is near Jerusalem. My great-grandfather was offered to buy property where Tel Aviv is now. It was sand with the ocean. The only city was there was the city of Jaffa. And then one of his sons, which was very orthodox, he didn't want him to buy property there because it was the beginning of modern Zionism. And he said to my great-grandfather, if you are going to buy property there, your great-grandchildren and your grandchildren are going to sit down in the bibliothèque, which is the library, and read about Zionism. At that time, they didn't talk about Zionism yet. He didn't let them buy it. Instead, he bought property in Pekin, which is near Tiberias, to plant leluvim and asorgim, where they use sukkot. If we had bought the property in Tel Aviv, we would be the multimillionaires of Israel now, which is the truth. I was also one of the youngest at that time, and during the First World War, after my father came back from Jerusalem, from Australia, and he's supposed to go back, but he missed, being it was the Ottoman regime was against the British regime, which was the Allied. It was that time the England, Russia, and England, Russia, and France in the beginning. That was before the United States. Before the United States entered the war. That's why the Ottoman regime made us prisoners of war, because we were like British subject. We were Australian citizens. Automatically. My father was taken prisoner of war. We had to follow there. And we stopped from Damascus to Aleppo. And we stayed there as prisoners of war. At that time was the German army stationed there, the Austrian army, and the Hungarian army, and the Turkish army. I was a youngster, and my father couldn't work for us. We used to get a little help from to the United States, help, and then when the United States entered the war, the Spanish government took over the help because Spain was neutral at that time. But we had to make it on our own. Aleppo had a big Jewish community there at that time. They had over Tiberias, bigger than Haifa. A lot of them. Now it's the schools there. Yeah. Besides the old schools from the Ria Kodesh, from the Ria Bib Shul, and the shul of the Tanais. This near Maron. Did you ever visit Maron? Maron, near Tzfat, is all the Tanais of the Talmud. A lot of them are buried over there. Reb Pinchas ben Yur is in Tzfat. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, yeah, yeah. By the Yarmouk, by the Yarmouk, in the back of the Yarmouk. The shul of Shem Ve'ever, where Jacob used to study, is in Tzfat. And in Maron is buried Shimon Bar Yochai, Reb Eliezer Bar Shimon, Reb Yochanan Sandler, and the Bet Hillel, and the Bet Shammai. Yeah, but that's where they used to study. They used to call that the two like the what do you call the Howard and Yale. You know, the conversations and interpretations of the Bet Hillel, the students of Hillel, and the students of the Shammais. And that was right near Maron. And then the Lag BaOmer, the Lag BaOmer, where the celebration is, when they light the Hadlaka, the celebration, Jews come from all over. In those days, before the First World War, Jews used to come from Bukhara, from Yemen, from Iran, from different parts where Jews used to come from Egypt, and from all the part of Mesopotamia. From Turkey, they came to the Hadlaka. They came to the Hadlaka, and then the Hadlaka celebrations, and those days they used to call the Halakha. Halakha means the celebration that where a boy of 3 years old, the celebration when a boy becomes 3 years old, they start to cut his hair and they make payas. You know, it becomes the halakha. So those days was. And today they still come, but in a different way, not the way it used to come there. So.
What about the stories when you were a kid and then you got into the underground?
Oh, this is after the First World War. First World War. When I came back to Tzfat, I was about 16 years. I started work at the Mashavim.
A little background about the family.
Well, the family,
And all the kids.
I told you, and they were all there. Some of them in Tiberias, some of them in Haifa, and most of them in Tzfat. And my grandfather was the Chabad. My other grandfather was the head of the Romanian Jewish people there, and they all had their own synagogues there. And the Tzfat living was a different type of life altogether. It was absolutely Hasidic life. And then the origination of modern Judaism became the B'nai Brit. Some of them became, and some of them ridiculed a little bit. The Hasidim ridiculed the B'nai Brit because they became more modern.
But what your grandfather, didn't he have certain dreams for you to be, what did he want you to do?
He wanted me to be a rabbi, but that's a dream of every grandfather. I studied the yeshiva. I studied in the Vidbash yeshiva, and the Slutzker rabbi. Then the other yeshiva, Rav Konowitz. But when the First World War came, I had to quit. I had to leave Tzfat because I had to leave it for as a prisoner of war, which they took us out from there. But when I came back from the Mesopotamian, we were pulled as far as Constantinople, and then back. My mother passed away after typhoid. We had a typhoid epidemic. My mother passed away. Then my grandmother passed away in Tzfat, and I joined the Chaklait. Chaklait means the farming colonies, like in at that time was Rosh Pina, Machnoim, Rosh Pina, Mishmar Hayaden, Yesod HaMa'aleh, Metula. Then Ayala Shacha came up, Talchai came up, Trumpelro was there, he was killed. Esther Shushik was killed, 3 of them. I happened to be not be killed by they were killed by the Bedouins at night at an attack. It happened so that week I was off. I had chofesh. But it was great. Then when we got back, it was tragic, very tragic. Then when I left there, I went back. I went to Haifa. And Haifa I went to the lower part of Galilee. I worked in Kinneret, Degania Aleph, Degania Bet, and Melchamiya, Yemya, Sejra. That's where Ben Gurion was secretary of the colonies there. and I was a Marchavia. I became a Shemer in the almond groves. Then
What is the
Shemer is the security of the almond groves. Watchmen, you know, at night. At gun, a horseback, yeah.
With a gun.
Picks to catch to catch the Arabs, to pull the trees out of the almond groves, steal it, and then watch them. They should make attack on the Moshavim. Then when Jabotinsky came, yeah, I joined when the British came, I joined the American Legion. Not the American Legion, the Jewish Legion, with Jabotinsky. We were called that time the Baby Battalion. The Baby Battalion. We stopped.
How old were you then?
I was 16. I said, and I lied. I said I was 18, and I got in there. They had a lot of youngsters who joined there and lied to their age, and they took them in. We were stationed at Rafah. Rafah is on the way near Beersheba, on the way over to Egypt. At that time, the British mandate was there, and they built the railroad, the Lut-Kantara Railroad. The Lut-Kantara Railroad. And the Lut-Kantara Railroad, which cut through the whole desert, and the first station was in Kantara, Rafah. It was Beersheba, Rafah, 2 more stations, and then Kantara. Kantara is on the Suez Canal, where they go over abroad with a bridge. Then I was in Egypt for a year and a half.
Why did you go to Egypt?
I ran away from to Egypt because the British were looking for me.
Why were they looking for you?
They were looking for me because they were looking for the Haganah followers at that time, because the Haganah followers were considered by the Mufti and by the British mandate as like terrorists.
What incident caused you to go?
The incident was that we were rounded up. They were rounded up and were taken away to the police station. So one of the British colonels called us bloody Jews. I got angry and I picked up a rock and I hit a horse, and the horse started to run wild and he fell off and he broke an arm, and I beat it. I ran away and I was hiding out for a couple of days in one of my father's friends' houses, and then I went on the railroad. At that time I didn't have to have no passport. So I went to Egypt. In Egypt, I took my name under my mother's name from a cousin of mine, the rabbi's son, Shmuel Horowitz. I still have the Vok Nafus, the birth certificate from him, which on his name. I got my passport and back. I had to go back to Israel. Otherwise, they wouldn't give me up, because I was born in Palestine, and I had to go back to Palestine to get a passport. My passport under my name, I couldn't take a chance because they'd catch me right away and they'd lock me up. So I got my passport under Shmuel Horowitz, my mother's name, my maiden name.
Back to Alexandria then?
No, I had to go back to Alexandria because the boat pulled out from Alexandria. I stayed in Alexandria and I made good money. I didn't feel like going. But my uncles wanted me to come to the United States because their quota was coming. If the quota comes, it'll be a hard time for me. The quotas was very little there.
What were you doing in Alexandria?
I was working as a goldsmith, as a jeweler of Iranian people. I spoke the language. I spoke the Arabic language.
So
At that time it was the King Fuad, Farouk's father, was the Khedeb. He was the ruler of Egypt under the British regime. Yeah. And I left Alexandria I left Arizona and then I came to the United States. Came to the United States, things were lousy. That was in 1921.
What about Ellis Island? Going through Ellis Island?
I didn't come to Ellis Island. I came through, what do you call it, Rhode Island.
Who was with you?
Yeah.
Who was with you?
I just said there were a lot of them there on the boat.
Cousin.
Oh, the cousin that picked me up from there.
No. Who got stopped in quarantine for a little bit?
Oh, not her, not me. There was a cousin of mine, Jeffrey, Ben Jeffrey. Ben Jeffrey came a different time.
2 weeks.
Ben Jeffrey came during the war, during the First World War. He was there. He had trachoma, so they kept him there. They kept him there for over a year.
What did he have?
Trachoma,
What's that?
the eyes. Yeah,
So they kept
they called it trachoma. Yeah,
They kept him
this is a disease that's brought in. They don't watch them today. They come in with everything. Today they come with everything. But they even come in with aid. Nobody touches him. Nobody checks him. All they have to do is pay, and that's it.
So they kept him and cured him first.
They had to quarantine and cured him, and then he was able to get out. And they gave a guarantee. My Uncle Max, my Uncle Mo gave a guarantee that they're going to support him if he don't make a living. You understand? That time you have to have two people to sign that they are going to support the person, the immigrant, who can't make a living. Not like today. Today they come in through the back door and nobody stops him. So Ben Jaffe was there.
So you came here. Where'd they set you up? Where'd you live?
I stayed by my uncle, Mo.
Who was your sponsor then?
My sponsor was my uncle. And at that time I left a job in Egypt that was making £8 a week.
Making
8
rings?
Egyptian pounds.
Making rings?
Yeah, but I was like more like a salesman there. I was a subby. A subby means in Arabic a youngster, under 18. Under 18, I was able to face the unveiled women
Right.
and put the measurement on them and put the measurement on their necks, and they were ordering big. They were big. It was the elite, the Egyptian elite women. Yeah, and I was making good money. I lived in a hotel. I making good money. I didn't feel like leaving altogether. That was 8. You know, like today.
But you sending money to...
Yeah, I sent money back to my father. Yeah, I was making money. I lived in a hotel. 8 Egyptian pounds a week. You know what that means? At that time, the pound it was $6 a pound. At that time, imagine now, gold.
In gold, yeah.
Gold. Paper was the same thing because the Egyptian pound was higher than the British pound. And then I came to them, and I came to the United States. I couldn't find no work at all.
So you came to Rhode Island?
No, I came to Rhode Island. From Rhode Island, I came to New York.
That's where Mo lived.
Yeah, and then
What was he doing?
so I got Mo. He had a dress store. I was on 6th Avenue, and then I said to myself, I can't find anything, so I tried a Hebrew teacher, but I could make a living that time. But a Hebrew teacher, there wasn't many students of Hebrew. There was more the yeshiva like, and I didn't care to. And I started a different business entirely. I worked for a while, and then I started work in a different line of business entirely.
What business was that?
That was the cigar business.
So that, and when did you get the shop that you have now?
Oh, now, 59 years ago.
And that's 59 years the same shop, and they finally changed it on you,
Yeah.
huh? 1986 then.
Right. Yeah.
So then where did you meet Grandma?
Grandma, and she was born in Williamsburg. Williamsburg, yeah. She was born in Williamsburg on Siegel Street. Yeah.
Where did you see her?
We lived next door to her. We lived next door. I lived by Uncle Max, and she lived next door. Sure, we lived in the same house. It was It was a four-family house. I lived in one part of the family house with Uncle Max in Beute, and they lived in the other part of the house.
So you were,
Huh?
she was going out with somebody at the same time?
She was going out with somebody, but
You moved right in?
I moved in and I pushed the other guy out.
How'd you push the other
He used to drive a milk cart, and he always smelled like
He was no, he was riding, he was driving a laundry wagon.
a laundry wagon?
Laundry wagon.
And you already had the cigar stand there?
No,
Not yet.
I was working yet.
Did
After I got married, I bought the place. That was about a year after I got married. They didn't want to let me go. I was a salesman. I make a good living, but I said I'm young. I want to start business now. If I fail now, if I don't make it, I go back to work.
Tell us about the courting with Grandma there.
Yeah, when he first came to the club, he said, he looked at Grandma and he said, that's the girl.
That's the one I want.
Tell us about that.
Well, I can tell her.
That was when you had your eye on
Well, that's the one. We were very much in love, and she was beautiful, very beautiful personality. She played the piano.
Beautiful face.
Beautiful, very nice dresser. And she was intelligent.
I saw the picture
Played
of you
it.
guys dancing.
Yeah, and whatever club I belonged, she was the belle. She was the belle of the evening. Whenever we came, she started to play the piano and playing all the old songs from the 20s. And we used to go out a lot. We used to go to different shows and different operas we used to see, and we enjoyed very well. Then, when I started getting into a little money, we started to travel. When Israel became a state, we went to Israel. But I went to Israel in 1929. I went back before the first riots in Jerusalem, when the Mufti was there. Was the first time I went back. And then I came back again in 1934. I came back again to Israel, and then 1934 and 1942 I came back. 1949 I came back. I went back quite a number of times. Then I came back with mom.
What were you doing to help Israel while you were in Israel?
Well, my brothers, they were working. I helped my brothers. I helped my brother get it down the farm, on Kfar Barbuk. I helped them along. I helped them
When did they
get.
start the farm?
I bought him the first cow. I bought him.
What year was that? Do you remember?
It was in 19. I don't know. I don't remember when it was. 1948.
And who started the farm then?
He started himself on Ken Kemet land.
Menachem, your brother was down there?
No, my mother was there.
Your mother, but Menachem.
Menachem was there.
Who else?
And then my brother came back. My brother was in Brazil. He came back.
Oh, he did come back.
Yeah, he was in Brazil. He came back, and then some of my sisters came, were settled there in Ramat Gan, and Menachem was in Kfar Barbuk. I bought him the first cow, and I brought him the washing machine, and I bought him a first Frigidaire. My Frigidaire that I sent my brother was the first Frigidaire in Kfar Barbuk.
So what did you do during the Depression in America, during that period, 29 on?
Oh, it was tough. The depression was tough.
What were you doing?
Huh?
What were you doing right there?
Yeah, there was. I stayed in the same place. Things were tough.
You had a job the whole time?
Depression? No, I was in business. But after 1929, when the crash came, half of my building emptied out. But I stuck along, And that time was the Bank of U.S. All the money, whatever had money, was tied up in the Bank of U.S. till they pay out 80%. Paid out 80%
How
of the
long
money, and
later?
it took about a year and a half till the and then kept on going further up a little bit, and
When did Doris come?
Towers was born. Towers was born about a year after. A year after I got married. A year after I got married, and I bought the business about 3 months before. 3 months, 4 months before, and the luck started to change a little bit. It was getting better, and what was it? It's hard to remember. After she was born, 1934, yeah, I found the family, the Rothberg family, and when I was working yet, and on the east side in Houston Street, I was working, and I met some of the people. Some of the people there came in as customers, and I said, I come from Israel. I come from Tzfat. Who do you know in Tzfat? That's how they recognized me. Who do you know in Tzfat? I told them who I am. He says, you have an aunt, an uncle here, right here on Houston Street. The Rothberg family, Rabbi Rothberg and his family. And they came over, and he told his mother about it, Mrs. Rothberg, and my grandmother were sisters.
Is that one of the four families in
Yeah, the families in Tzfat.
Who were the four
One of the elite families were the
Heimson?
Heimsons, the Siegels, and the Horowitzes, and the Jaffes. Yeah. The elite families, and the most well-known families in Tzfat.
Right.
Yeah.
Where did you learn English?
English, I went to the missionary school. I learned English. That was before the First World War. It was against my parents' and my grandparents' wish. They didn't even know. I done it secretly.
How old?
Myself and another two friends of mine, and the parents found out. They beat us up. They tore our books for going there. Missionaries was not to be touched. But they were afraid for conversion. You understand?
And what age were you at that time?
At that time, I was about 12, about 14 years old.
Before your bar mitzvah?
It was around that time, around by my mitzvah time. Yeah.
And where was your bar mitzvah at?
But my mitzvah was in Tzfat. And my only grandfather, my grandfather was there. My other grandfather was in Jerusalem, my mother's father. And my father's father was in Tzfat. So he was at my bar mitzvah. I had to make a speech from the Gemara, from the Talmud. And after that, we had to leave. Right after the bar mitzvah, it was about 14 and a half years we had to leave.
That's when the British came in.
Yeah. The First World War broke out.
What about the story you told me one time with the train car when you hit under the...
Oh, that was on the way back.
Tell me
On the way back from to Israel, back to Palestine after the Second World War, and they were shooting yet. It wasn't after the war; it was in the middle of the war yet, but it wasn't. It was towards the end, and we were near Dara. We were near Dara.
Where's that?
Dara is not far from Kenatra. I'm the way from Damascus to the Golan Heights, to Kenatra. Over the mountains there. And there was a railroad there, the Damascus Railroad, and the railroad was a grain railroad. And we couldn't get no reservations on the railroad because that also was reserved for army soldiers. So my mother, I, and my brothers, and my sister, we were buried they were shooting we were buried in the grain, and they were shooting from both sides. The British from one side, and the Turks from the other side, and they hit the railroad. It was a lucky thing. Each car of both sides were hit. We were lucky, and our car wasn't hit.
You stayed in there.
We stayed there until another locomotive came and pulled us away from there.
You were scared to get out.
I got out from there. Till we hit Semach. Semach, there was a city there, and the lower part of Galilee near Tiberias. And then we became connected back from Tzfat, from Tiberias.
And what was going on in Spot then?
In Tzfat, a lot of people were away, and a lot of
British
people.
were there?
The British were all the British weren't there yet.
No?
No.
Who was in control at that
It was not controlled. It still was the Turks.
Still the Turks.
Till the Turks. The British came, and I was in Haifa, and I worked there in Haifa. I worked there for the Friedmans, the wineries, for the Friedmans. They were my uncles, and the Carmel Original, and I worked for them. The British came in. They came to Jerusalem, towards Beersheba, and then they hit Haifa.
Yeah?
There was the Indian troops and the Australian troops. The Australian troops and the Indian troops. Not Indian, Hindu troops. American is Indian. East India is Hindu. They came in, and a lot of Turkish soldiers who were repulsed. They were killed a lot, but they came in big masses. When Lord Allenby came in with his army. So Jerusalem, they weren't shooting on Jerusalem. They still walked in the peace. It's a holy city. The holy city didn't. But fighting was going on the way from to Akko, to Haifa, until they came to Haifa. And then they took over the whole part of, and then they went further up. Then everything fell in by itself. The Turkish army was eliminated because they went to another side. The French came into the Mesopotamian side. They came into Syria, but they came to Beirut, to Lebanon. They came to a different part. So the French took over. The French took over Syria, Lebanon. They stayed there, and the British stayed in Israel. They took Jordan. It was no Jordan. There was no kingdom there, because Jordan was a part of Israel.
The Turks.
The British first made a kingdom out of there when they sliced up the Arabian Peninsula and the Vlad Hussein, the Hussein family, Faisal, Abdullah, and who else? Another part, which was divided. The Jordan was given to Abdullah, and Iraq was given to Faisal, and Syria, who did they give Syria? I don't remember. He was killed. This is the whole thing that was split up already. And then it was a different thing. Then it was the Ibn Saud. Ibn Saud was Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia was different. They were battling. They were battling the British, and the British conquered them. And the British bought off the Saudis. They should revolt against the Turks. They revolted against the Turks, the Saudis, and the Turks were defeated, and they took Kuwait. Was the first one. Then Saudi Arabia, and then the rest of the sheikdoms have all. That's all Bedouins. The Arabis, the the energies and the Wahhabis. They took a part of the Ibn Saud. Ibn Saud chased out the Hussein family altogether from the Arabian Peninsula at that time.
What year
Yeah,
was it?
Abdullah ran away at night barefooted from there.
What year was this about?
That was in 1917 or 1918, something like that. 1917 or 1918. Then Lawrence of Arabia was there. He's the one that helped the British get in there. See, he's the one that got the British in there. He helped the Turkish. It was the Hejaz Railroad from the Turks to Saudi Arabia. They busted up the railroad and they went into Saudi Arabia.
Split them apart a little.
Yeah, and then the British came in and took it over little by little. They had Saudi Arabia, they had Kuwait, they had the Sheikdoms, they had the other parts of the Saudi Arabia. But the oil they first found later, and the American engineers. No, the American engineers came to find oil, and they helped the British to find the oil there. That was right after the war, after the First World War. But they didn't have much oil there at the beginning. At the beginning they started in Kuwait, not in Saudi Arabia. Kuwait was the first place where the British were stationed there. And then came the other sheikdoms. It was split up after that. When they found more oil, it was split up. But the Hussein family, they wanted to be a part of it, but they chased. The father was Rashid. Saud was the son. Ibn Saud was the son. And then came the after the dynasties. He kept all the Bedouin tribes together. They shouldn't revolt anymore.
What was going on in Israel while this was going on?
This was going on. The Mufti became. Then they became the High Commissioner. There was a High Commissioner but named Luke. There was a High Commissioner but they named the High Commissioner Herbert Samuel. Sir Herbert Samuel. He was Jewish. But he had played with the Arab most, and the Mufti did. They made attacks on Israel here and there and here and there, and the British played up with the Arabs.
Right.
Yeah, they only allowed in a few Jews. The Jewish quota was very little. They didn't allow too many chalutzim there to come. Too many.
When did the Zionists start?
Yeah, that's what the Zionists started to come in. They started in and they start to come. They start to come into chalutzim from Europe, but the British put a squeeze on them, and they can't the Arabs because the Arabs complained. But
When they were working the Zionists in Britain and in France.
Yeah.
Who was raising all the money then?
They were raising money. Beginning, the first colonies was by the Baron Hirsch. Then the Rothschilds came in. The Rothschilds came in on the colonies near Haifa, like Zichar Yaakov, Hadera, Submarine. They started the wineries there. The winery. You see, from Haifa down to the other one. Binyamina, the others. Yeah, Rishon LeZion. This was all after that when the Baron Rothschilds came in. And the Rothschild family came in, they started to build the wineries in Israel. But the Rothschilds came in after the Baron Hirsch. Baron Hirsch came in before the World War. First World War came. Right, way before. They came in the early 1900s.
Where was Herzl now? He was in
Herzl was in Herzl was in Basel, in Switzerland.
Switzerland?
Yeah, he was in Switzerland. He was born in Austria, but he lives in Switzerland.
They hadn't come to Israel yet.
Herzl they brought the body to be buried in Israel. Yeah. Okay, you got enough?
Right.
Huh?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Come on, we gotta go.
Okay. I have the other tape ready to show you 3 things when you're walking down the aisle. Sure.
Boy, he was going strong. We have to stop.
Huh?
You were going strong. Had to stop. That was exciting. You like that? You're a showman now. The showmare and the showman.
Just, maybe you'll send me the tape for me?
Yeah.
I came with the Corona. You know, they used that boat for soldiers in the war.
For soldiers in the war?
Yeah. It was a British man, Corona. But, you know, that was when I left Egypt. I came here, but before Egypt.
So what was the ticket in those days?
Huh?
What was the ticket? How much did the ticket cost you? Or did you stow away?
Tickets was back. $300. That was like, what was it? All the immigrants are coming from all sides.
That's right.
But there was a quota, you see. The quota, they didn't let too many people in from the Middle East. Most of the immigrants came from Europe, Eastern Europe, Germany, Austria, France, but not Jews had very little chance to come here.
Yeah, country of quotas, huh?
Yeah, about the Jewish population came in from Russia, Eastern Europe, from Austria too. They came, but they had a big, the smallest quota was from Israel. They didn't allow that. But I pulled through it.
Yeah. So
Right, that's right. I didn't want to come here. I didn't want to leave Egypt.
You wanted to stay in Egypt?
Sure.
So why
I
did
was
you-
doing very good.
I didn't realize
I made
that.
money there.
Actually, the story. Tell the stories about the jewelry store. Where you worked in the jewelry store
Yeah,
trying on the necklaces.
I
You ever heard
worked
that?
for Iranian Jews there in the jewelry store.
Yeah.
Gold. But I was a goldsmith.
I know this story. This is
Yeah.
a good one. Let's hear more.
And I worked there. I was a youngster, I was below 18,
Yeah.
and I attended to
You're able to touch the women, huh?
the women, to make the measurements and this and that. And I was making eight Egyptian pounds a week. And that's a lot of money,
Yeah.
even that time. The pound was about $6 a pound.
That's
The
a lot
British,
of money.
the
Yeah.
British pound was $5,
Yeah.
and the Egyptian pound
It was even higher.
was even higher. And I was living, I lived in a hotel. I didn't want to come here. When I came here, I had money.
Why did you come here? I didn't understand.
I told you they were going to close the quota. The quota. They had a quota coming here.
To come here, but you said you didn't want to come. So
I
why did you leave
My
Egypt?
uncles wanted me to come because otherwise I'd miss my next to come in here.
Oh, I see.
I didn't want to come.
So it was
They told
pressure.
me, yeah, it was they pressured me to come. When I came here, things were bad.
Yeah.
You know, there was no work, no business. And people were making. When I came, you know how much I worked? $10-12 a week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that wasn't terrible either. That was okay.
that was okay. But the idea is this: I made more money than that.
Sure.
In Egypt. Yeah. But the only thing is, I couldn't go back to Israel because I had my passport already. But the British were there, and I didn't want to go back.
Was there a problem with you going back?
I had trouble with the British major. You know, I ran away from there.
So they were out to get you?
Yeah.
They were out to get you then?
And they were out to get me, and I ran away.
Oh, you get ashes. You got ashes on yourself, Grandpa.
No.
One of these days you have to stop smoking.
I can tell you, I can hardly remember everything. But the idea is this: It reminds me of things. But when I was in Swiss, when I was young, Swiss had a population of over 60,000 Jews at that time.
Where?
Swiss.
It's fine.
Sure.
Yeah. And now there's how many people?
Yeah, they haven't got
5,000-10,000.
Yeah.
over 60,000. They had over 60 schools.
Yeah,
60 synagogues.
I saw a lot of the old ones with the blue entranceway.
Old synagogues.
They're really beautiful.
Old synagogues. Yeah, a lot of them are destroyed already, you know.
Where did everybody live? I didn't see where they would put all these people.
But you haven't Tzfat.
Sure.
All that, whatever you see downtown, go to Tzfat.
Yeah.
All these houses, people live there.
Yeah.
People live there. They were crowded, but people lived there. People did crowded, but people lived there all the time. That was the Hadassah Hospital they had, and the doctor's hospital there. I'm sure they had a lot of them.
My foot in the way?
No.
Okay.
And then they had this I told you about when Mahan used to come. They used to come from all over. Jews came from all over the world.
Yeah.
Right, to the synagogues.
Especially the Sephardi Jews.
Sure.
There were more Sephardi. There was a lot of Sephardi Jews.
Uh-huh.
And it's right there,
Yeah.
sure. Generations and generations.
Sure. Well, it was a Kabbalist center.
From the time of the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
They did that's right.
Wasn't that where Luria was?
Yeah, Luria was, Luria. Deep Shul and Rice Tzaddik Shul and well, a lot of them. And I was there.
So what was a typical day for you in the spot when you were 15?
I was young when I left. I forget that the war came in. And when I left Source, I was 15 years old, 14, 15 years old. I was by mitzvah Source.
Yeah.
That's all. And then I had to leave. I left Yeshiva, I left everything.
It was actually
Because we were prisoners of war, don't you understand?
Yeah.
But my father became a British citizen.
Yeah.
And the first war, World War started,
Yeah.
they stopped. So the British last ship came to Haifa just for 1940. I don't know when it was, 1940 or 19. Yeah, before 1940.
So we're working back now.
Huh?
What did your father do?
My father was a grocery merchant. Grocery merchant. He had he imported stuff from Beirut. He used to import stuff from Beirut. A lot of stuff was imported. A lot of stuff was there.
the olives from the town next door. What's
Olives.
I actually know somebody that grew up in the town next door to Sweat.
There's a team.
Yeah, it's a friend of
There's a
mine.
team.
He knew when he knew.
There's a team.
I was there too.
Yeah.
And then the rule was that the Turkish rule.
Yeah.
The Ottoman regime was there. And they had a mayor, Zabit, that was
They had Turkish mayor?
all Turkish.
Everything was Turkish.
See,
The
at
whole
that
government?
time, the head of government were all Turks, not Arabs. Arabs, a policeman, they had an Arab here and there, but all Turks, like like this Secretary in the Earl, there was a big police station up in, there was a sarai, they used to call it. And there were also the other Turks, they kept the prisoners there.
Did a lot of the Turks stay after the regime folded?
No, the Turks, they were taking care of the Arabs, not of the Turks.
Yeah.
Then they drafted the Jews too to the army, the Turkish army. So I think they'll be there.
Was there any resistance?
No, what kind of resistance? You get killed in resistance. You can't have no resistance there.
It was,
They beat. They used a whip on your feet.
Yeah.
That's what they used to use. That was the Dutch used. Yeah, when I was in Haifa, it was different. Haifa was already after the First World War was over. I was there when the British came in. And, Lord Allenby conquered Israel to Jerusalem.
Could we go back a bit? I want to
Actually, we already did some.
some of the Turkish stuff.
Yeah.
I want to try and get more of a picture of what life was like
see,
under the rule.
When Lord Allenby came to Israel,
Yeah.
conquered Israel,
Yeah.
so he came in, it was Indian troops, Australian troops,
Yeah.
and they all they all went to all by road from Jerusalem, to Haifa. Then they went further around, and they went to the French came from the other side, from Damascus, from Dara, from Kenetra, like the Golan Heights is now. And they came there, and the French came in, and they took over Lebanon.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had battles with the Druze a lot. Yeah, they took over Lebanon, the British took over Palestine, and I remember they had a high commissioner, yeah, and then was Lord Samuel was in Jerusalem. He was the high commissioner. The other Luke was a high commissioner. And then in Haifa they had a big base, an army base of the army, because there was a port. There was a music port there. But they were fighting all the way back. The Turks didn't want to let go. But then when the Turks started to run away from there, they howled, Gelburia.
What was that?
He's coming. They're coming. Yeah.
What did that mean?
That means they have to run, that's all.
Did they have to run?
But they caught a lot of the, most of the Turks, they caught it. They couldn't go to fight it. They captured them there, and they gave up.
Uh-huh.
They gave up. And after that, they started to arrange it with the British wanted to fight for just government there, and they.
What did they want there? What do you think they wanted? What do you think they wanted there?
What, the British?
Yeah.
What they wanted? The British had everything that time.
Yeah.
They had everything.
Was it strategic for them?
No, not strategic, but they wanted to make sure.
Just
From there, they start to go to Damascus.
Yeah, that's
See,
right. It was
Mesopotamia.
It was a gateway for them.
But, yeah, and that time they start to go, conquer Damascus, Baghdad, went down all the way to Kuwait.
Yeah.
And then they went to Constantinople at that time. Constantinople, and that the Ottoman regime was conquered.
So
Churchill was the
Prime Minister.
he wasn't prime minister yet.
no prime minister. Churchill was
20 years later.
Oh, that's true. That was a long
I
time.
don't know what he was. I think
General or
he
something.
was a general or something. Yeah, they were fighting in the Dardanelles.
Uh-huh.
In Gallipoli.
Gallipoli.
Gallipoli, yeah.
Yeah, that's the Dardanelles. She rushes across
Mm-hmm.
the Dardanelles. And the Germans, they want to chase the Germans out because the Germans were all over Turkey. They had Turkey in their hands.
Yeah.
They always the German army. They bleeded the Turks till the end of it.
No doubt.
Yeah.
What percentage of the population at that time in Palestine was Jewish, and what percentage was Arab?
The Jewish population wasn't many. The Jewish population was maybe 100,000 most.
In all of Palestine?
Sephardim, yeah. How big was Palestine? The Yishuk wasn't so big. Most of it was land.
That was before there was Tel Aviv or any cities.
Yeah.
There's
Tel Aviv
nothing there.
Yeah.
Tel Aviv was sand all over.
Yeah, and do you remember what the Arab population was? We're talking about what, 1915?
Most of it was Arab.
Yeah.
Most of it was Arab. Arab, all the villages.
So that was what, maybe 500,000?
No. They never had.
No?
No.
200,000?
200, 300,000 maybe at the time. Otherwise there wasn't so many Arabs.
We're not talking about Turks, we're just talking
Tzfat was a lot of Arabs.
Yeah.
Tzfat. Tiberias, there wasn't too many Arabs. Haifa was a lot of Arabs for the port. Naqqa was a lot of Arabs used to belong to Palestine. We conquered it. We took it away from the Jordan Mandate. Yeah. That was Akko. Akko, all the whole section there on the way to Akko. To Chitten, all the way on the way out to what do you call it?
Not real?
No, all the way out there, like the Beirut, like we call it the.
The highway? Or all the way up there? Or what?
No, what they fight there, what the.
Oh, the Golan Heights?
Oh.
Not the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights was on this side. That's where they conquered the Golan
So the
Heights.
Bekaa Valley? All the way to the Bekaa Valley?
Bekaa Valley was already. Bekaa Valley was in Syria already, and I forget what it called.
Okay, that's all right.
No,
Come back.
but they're fighting now, both of them,
Yeah.
trying to wipe them out, the Muslims.
Sidon?
the-
Tyre?
the country. The Israelis were fighting that
You're talking
war.
about in Lebanon?
Lebanon, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah, sure.
And that was they conquered everything. They had everything there. But then the British started to build a railroad from Lud, Haifa, Lud, Qatar, and Lud all the way out to Egypt. They brought in half a million Egyptians. Egyptians were the British regime at that time. Yeah. The British were on the Egyptian regime. They had a high commissioner in Egypt, and they were working. They built up the railroad all the way out to Egypt, up to the Suez Canal. Sure. Then when they started to get the Jews started to come in from after the Second World War, when Jews started to come in, and Jews started to populate the country more, and they bought out most of the land they bought was for KKM, the Jewish National Fund. Jews paid money for their land, blood and money. They didn't take anything away before the wars, but they had the wars, but they paid for it. KKM money they bought land and they built one colony after another, one village after another, all the way out. There was Galil Agyon, Galil Techton, upper part of Galilee, the lower part of Galilee.
Who are they buying from?
Zichron,
They're buying from the sheikhs that own the land?
Sheikhs, the owners, they had what you call owners which a generation. The Turks gave them land and they kept it. You understand? The government, and what's the matter with the British? The British gave them land. The British gave land. They didn't give the Israelis any land, but they gave to the Arabs land to cultivate. Then they sold a lot of land. Yeah. In the West, like the West Bank, there's a lot of land given to the Arabs there. And so, a lot of the cities like Hebron, Haifa.
How did they determine
Jerusalem,
how they gave the land?
They by generations.
Decree? Oh.
No, by generations. By the size of the family, to work the land. Nobody, they worked the land.
That's how the British determined it?
Yeah.
The Turks too?
Yeah.
The Turks also?
Turks gave them, yeah. Ardia they used to call it. Ardia means, when it became Khuriya. Khuriya means freedom. With the Sultan Abdul Hamid, gave Khuriya freedom for the people.
Who was
They gave it, to the Arab, they gave the land. Because the Arab, it was on the Turkish regime, but the Arabs wasn't land by themselves. You understand? Palestine belonged to different countries. It belonged to the Byzantines, the Romans, the Crusaders took away a lot of land, and they gave it away. They bought it. They didn't buy it, but they gave it to if you became a leader.
Yeah.
They gave you land for becoming a leader and to tame the people. The British had one thing in their mind: divide and rule. Divide and rule.
Yeah.
So that the Israelis, they didn't get much of it. That is double started. When they had the Mufti had Jamina Cassini. The Mufti had created trouble. They didn't want the Jews. They saw the Jews started coming in, and then the British, after the Balfour Declaration, to give Palestine to the Jews.
14? Was Balfour?
No.
What was Balfour? 14.
19. Balfour Declaration was 19, I think, 1980, 1980 was the Balfour Declaration. Then, after the Balfour Declaration, they're supposed to allow. Now, Weizmann got in, they started to create groups to start to come to Israel. The British didn't like it, they didn't want it. They didn't want it because they didn't want to antagonize the Arabs. They made the Mufti a big shot. They told them to call this, And
We're not talking about huge amounts of people. We're talking about a couple hundred, maybe 100,000 people between 1918 and
1890 was already more people. Yeah.
Well,
because
between then and the Second World War, though.
You see, the original Zionists started to come early, but not that many groups. They couldn't come in many groups.
Yeah.
But after that, after the First World War, they came in more groups. But the British didn't like to see the Jews come in too many. They didn't want to antagonize the Arabs. So they started the trouble, divide and rule. They made a few leaders for the Jews, a few leaders there, a few leaders here. They started, they gave Weizmann, after the First World War, they gave Weizmann had he had the promise from